Snowpiercer. Welcome to an in-depth film analysis. We're going to tell a very moving story, one you've probably seen before. The story brilliantly explores how humanity reacts to environmental disasters, what happens when society collapses, how societies are built and collapsed, and what it means to be human when things get out of control. Our task today is to distill the main ideas and the most interesting parts and help you understand what the story is trying to say. So let's start by analyzing the basic idea. It's scary and terrifying, but it makes sense. Humanity is trying to fix global warming with geoengineering. It's a great idea, but like all great solutions, it fails. This solution backfires catastrophically, and the entire planet is plunged into a new ice age. Everything freezes and becomes uninhabitable. The most striking thing is the train that appears, on which the survivors of the Great Catastrophe live. These few remaining humans are on this huge train that continues to run nonstop, circling the frozen Earth. So this train is not just a means of transportation, rather it becomes your own little world where a small community lives, like a self-sufficient bubble. The film immediately shows you the desperate struggle, the desire to just live, and throws us right into this for-sale structure. It's the hierarchy rooted in every train car. You're born on the train, and your entire life, your status, everything, is defined by the car you're born in. So at the front of the train, you find the luxurious elite and the amazing amenities that you wouldn't have imagined for a moment because the outside world is frozen. You find greenhouses, gourmet foods, and aquariums. Then, at the end of the train, conditions get worse. The middle cars may be good, but they don't compare to the front. The reality is completely different. At the end of the train, where it's dark and gloomy, the film shows the poor crammed into squalid conditions with no fresh air, and their only food is a mysterious protein bar. You immediately realize the inequality. It's not about earning social status through hard work. If you weren't born privileged or connected to the first train, you're one of those people living at the bottom because of your misfortune, in a caste system on wheels, living on a mysterious protein bar. And it slaps you in the face, and you see how dehumanizing people is something that always happens when protein bars turn out to be made from ground-up cockroaches. And it's not just about bad food, it's a statement from the people in power that shows how the people at the end of the train are just insects and less than human to them. It's absolutely humiliating. And you see how corrupt the system and the people in charge are. And this has been going on for 17 years with the people living at the end of a train they weren't born into by choice, and they love suffering, for example. No, they've been trying to fight constantly, one rebellion after another, planning a fight, but each time they're crushed with heavy losses. This only reinforces how powerful the authorities are. So after 17 years of failed uprisings, what makes the rebellion this time? It focuses on this leader, the hero of the film, who receives strange messages from someone he doesn't know, and it helps him to keep going and going. But the real catalyst is the thing that shocked everyone, which is the spark of the revolution. Something cruel happens. The authorities and the Wilford people start taking the children from the back of the train. They take the children and treat them the worst, like slaves and vermin. And when one of the parents tries to stop them desperately, they pull them off the train, freeze their arm to ice, and then smash it in public as an example of oppression and control. Whew. This is the breaking point. This horrific act against the children and a parent motivates everyone after years of oppression. This is the spark that begins the final rebellion. This time, they start making progress. They fight their way forward, car by car, passing the guards and entering through the locked doors. As they advance, they start seeing parts of the train they never knew existed. Suddenly, they find themselves in a fancy hair salon. Then they see sushi bars, plants, classrooms for children, and even a nightclub. So not only were the conditions slightly better, but it was an entire hidden world. Swimming pools, saunas, everything was deliberately hidden in the back of the train. The huge gap between the classes and the human home in the background. Those who don't even know what a real fish looks like, while in the foreground there are bars and sushi. The film highlights ignorance, the class system we know, the one that keeps most people at the bottom by controlling what they know, So the hero continues on his way, freeing someone who turns out to be a security expert and his daughter, and they need his skills to get through. From another section of the train, the poor are forced to crawl inside the cramped, dangerous machinery, replacing non-working components and becoming vulnerable to injury or death. Therefore, the children they took were replacements for the engine's maintenance workers. This is the terrifying secret at the heart of their survival. The train runs on the sacrifice of children, and it is essentially hidden behind all the propaganda about balance and necessity. This is the ultimate cost of this system. It reveals the complete moral emptiness of the entire society and the welfare in the foreground. It is all built on the grinding of poor children. So the hero faced that absolute horror and refused Wilford's offer to work as his replacement because he could not become part of that corrupt system and would not repeat that dirty cycle. At that moment of crisis, it becomes clear that the security expert's daughter has an explosive and manages to use it to blow up one of the main doors to the outside. Causing a massive avalanche, the train derails and is completely destroyed, and the entire system collapses as a catastrophic end to this small world. But is it the end of everything? No. It is a truly powerful image when the train crashes and 2 people crawl out of the wreckage. Only 2. The security expert's young daughter, who detonated the explosives, and one of the young boys taken to the engine, the same boy whose kidnapping helped in igniting the rebellion. The last generation goes out into the snow in this vast, frozen world, and then they see a polar bear. So that suggests that perhaps the freeze is waning, and life outside the train might be possible again, which is uncertain, but it's a glimmer of hope, and a chance to start completely anew away from the corruption of the train. The story is more than just a thriller. It digs deep, one of the main things, and makes this commentary on us and humanity and on how our attempts to fix things, especially the great environmental mess we've made like global warming, and how the fixes can go terribly wrong. This points to human arrogance, this belief that we can control nature perfectly without any negative reaction so that the cure becomes worse than the disease. This is a sharp point. Our solutions sometimes carry the same flaws as the problems we tried to solve. The train itself is a metaphor, just a brutal metaphor for class struggle. That is, a society where power and wealth are concentrated at the top, maintained by keeping everyone else at the bottom below the poverty line, dehumanizing them. Wilford's whole philosophy is horrific because it echoes real justifications for inequality, the idea that a society needs masters and servants, and that each person must accept their place for the greater good, even if their place is hell. The story tells that literally, and the way power works. Manipulation is key. Wilford doesn't just use power, no, that's crucial. He uses fear with power, but he also uses controlled chaos. He orchestrates rebellions to manage the population. That's the next level of manipulation. It's like some dictatorships we've seen create crises to consolidate power using propaganda and false hope. Even indoctrinating children and young people to believe that this nightmare they're living is normal, normalizing oppression until people can't breathe. It's as much psychological control as it is physical. The film also plays with the idea of a hero. The hero of the film isn't like a perfect saint. He's flawed and has a dark past that he regrets, but that makes his final actions all the more powerful. It's not about perfection. It's about finding the courage to act anyway, to say no to injustice despite his own flaws. So real change doesn't need perfect leaders. It simply needs imperfect people who are willing to take that stand to overcome their fear and their past. The real spark often comes at the end. And finally, destroying the train is inevitable. The message about solutions is provocative. It basically says, maybe you can't take over the old system, even if you have good intentions. Maybe the system itself is too corrupt, so you have to destroy it completely. That seems to be the true guarantee of liberation, dismantling the whole train structure and starting over, returning to something more fundamental, perhaps more normal, free of those divisions, exploitation, and enslavement. It's a call for a new beginning, not just a change in management. The film really shows how one story can pack so much, and how one brave act, even from a flawed person, can spark massive change. It really makes you think, how many times, perhaps in our lives or our societies, see a potential spark for change but ignore it or wait for someone better to do something? A powerful idea that change often starts small, with one person who refuses to accept things as they are, imperfectly, and rejects injustice. But with that, the challenge the story leaves us with is how to build something truly new after destroying the old. How to avoid repeating the same mistakes. There's something more to the story than the connections we see with the world around us or the systems we live in. We hope this in-depth analysis has given you some interesting ideas to think about.